My name is Michael Beckett. I'm the Liberal Democrat Parliamentary Candidate for the May general election in 2015. Just doing a brief video here on tuition fees. Some people wonder why some Liberal Democrats, not all, changed their position on tuition fees. Well, after the 2010 general election, there was the Brown report that came in, making various recommendations about how tuition fees should be handled, including unlimited fees and some steep repayment terms. Now, some Liberal Democrats felt that it was too much of a burden on students to allow that to go ahead, and they had no choice but to jump on that hand grenade, literally, take the political damage and try and make things better and give the students a graduate tax in all but name and limit tuition fees, which I think is much better than what would have happened under the Labour and Conservative agreed Brown Commission report of unlimited fees. And I just think that is such a nightmare scenario that was avoided, that I think the Liberal Democrats should be giving a lot more credit for the position than a lot of people have understood.
So are you going to vote?
Yes, I will vote. Not sure who for yet. It's my first time being able to vote. I'm quite excited. Been doing my research. So, yeah.
Hi Jess, I'm Mike Beckett. I'm the Liberal Democrat Parliamentary Candidate for Scarborough and Whitby. I just wondered if you wanted to talk to me about education, is that right?
Yes, yes, I do. I don't know who I'm going to vote for yet, but as I say, doing my research, gonna see what I think would be best for me and for the area.
Tuition fees, opinion, go.
I think tuition fees is a big deal. Liberal Democrats found it a real struggle working out what to do, and one of the ways you can tell that is because we were very much divided on this issue, with 21 of us voting against a rise in tuition fees, 27 voting for and 8 abstaining, so that's less than half in any of those categories. The main thing I'd say about tuition fees is that the Labour government previously had decided that it was too much of a contentious issue for them to deal with, because they'd already promised not to bring them in, and then they did, and they promised not to raise them, and they said, oh, well, we didn't raise them in that parliament, we postponed it so it would be in the next parliament. But then they thought, well, we've been caught out on tuition fees, so what we'll do is we'll get a commission to have a look at this issue, and it will report back after the general election, and we'll say we'll do whatever they say. So the Brown Commission reported back and said unlimited tuition fees was the way to go. We didn't want any tuition fees, so this was awful as far as we were concerned. We had 23% of the popular vote, 8.7% of MPs. And if you do the math, you need over 50% of MPs to make a decision. So what's your take on university or apprenticeships?
Well, I want to go to university, so it is very important to me because obviously I'm not from a family that has a specifically wealthy or rich background, and therefore tuition fees, as you say, can be quite crippling, and I don't want to end up with that sort of crazy amount of debt further on in life and that amount of stress. I've had a lot of people of older generations say to me that paying off their student loans is like paying off a second rent, or it's really difficult for them to do it because it's just twice their monthly bills or their weekly bills. And for me personally, I want to avoid that as much as I can. So,
Sensible.
Yeah. So, is that possible?
Well, under the Labour system, it was 15k you had to earn before a chunk of your salary was then dedicated to paying it off, and 15k really wasn't that much, compared to losing such large chunk of your income on repayment. It did mean that some people who were on 14 and a bit K didn't want to have a promotion or to get for another job because they would be so much worse off by having to pay back the tuition fees. So what the Liberal Democrats said was they wanted a system where, and it's at over 21k you have to earn before you start paying it back, but you only pay, once you hit the threshold, a percentage of the amount above, which I think is a lot fairer and a lot safer, which is why I do think Labour's policy of saying it should be 6k rather than 9k only really affects people earning over 35k. People earning over 35k pay less back, and I'm not quite sure how that helps anyone apart from people earning over 35k.
So why are you fully against tuition fees?
I think one of the most fundamental things we can do is educate people. I think enslaving people by ignorance is one of the worst things you can do, and I think the value of our society is that people get the opportunity to develop themselves. My favourite quote ever is, don't ask yourself what the world needs, but ask yourself what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is more alive people.
And what are the arguments for tuition fees? Because obviously in universities, in private schools, in colleges, things like that, facilities and training and teachers and all that need to be paid for to get the best education possible. Which is what you're talking about, educating more people to the extent of their abilities so they can go further in life and reach their fullest potential. So surely, although obviously tuition fees are a great detriment to a lot of people, and as you say, they leave them in poverty or worrying about money for years and years to come, are they not to some extent a necessity?
Well, what I would favour is some sort of graduate tax that was open-ended, and it was maybe 1% or something like that, but a small percentage above a certain threshold, and it stayed at that threshold, and those who've had the privilege of having it repay a part of their income over this period, and those who never reach that threshold never pay it back. But then there is a graduate tax that means that graduates pay a bit more, especially those who can afford to. But that's how I personally would see it. I think this system is a lot better than the system we had before under Labour, which was stopping people from going to university, because more people than ever before are going to university. I think we've got more apprenticeships than ever before. These are both really great things because people need to go forward. You know, I just think giving people the opportunity to have year-round work and to find something that makes them come alive that they can do, that has got to be the answer. That's got to be the best thing for society.
Mike Beckett has actually swayed a lot of my current thoughts and current beliefs on a lot of the political parties. He's a lovely person, he's great to talk to, you know, very easy to talk to. So I feel now in a lot of ways that I'm not necessarily more secure for the future. Policies like that can come into fruition, but yeah, no, I'm pleased now that I've had that discussion, now that I know what's going on, now that I can form a fully fledged opinion on the matter.